How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're so excited to have you on here today. I'll let Courtney take it away.
Great. Great to have you this morning. Like Chris was saying, also huge Del Taco fan, love the quesadillas, and a huge TikTok fan. So this was a great intersection of everything. But just wanted to start off. Obviously, we're all here because TikTok has become this huge emerging platform. I think, if we could have predicted what was going to happen over the pandemic and the growth of this platform, it was just, I think, beyond a lot of people's beliefs. But kind of as you guys started to see the growth of this platform, at what point did your team feel that this was really something that they needed to be a part of?
That's a good question. I think it, like many social channels, when something first starts, you're like, oh, that's interesting. And if you're anything like me, like when Facebook came out and I was in college, I was like, this is never going to do better than MySpace, right? Like you just like your first gut is to go, is this going to do well? So we've learned a lot through the years that we should watch it. We should observe it. We should look at the engagement as well as the other brands that are starting to partake in it. Sometimes being the first early adopter doesn't pay off the way we would expect it to, right? The same way that there was an Uber before Uber, but Uber hit it big because they learned from the other guys. I would say that it wasn't until the pandemic that like we stared at it and went, okay, this is going somewhere, right? And I think a lot of brands did that, especially because this just blew up during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's fun. That's kind of when I got on it personally, and it was very interesting to kind of see, I think, how much time I started devoting to like watching TikToks
Yeah.
before bed and things like that. So it kind of leads into something else that I wanted to chat through. So do you guys kind of have an internal process on how you review platforms? You guys kind of always keeping your eye on things that are up and coming? Or is it kind of, or you do want it to be a little bit more mainstream before you join specific platforms?
We're always watching. Does it mean we're always there? No, but we're always watching and with anything. And I don't think there's a cut and dry process for that. And I think anybody that says there's a cut and dry process for like, hey, we know exactly when to jump into each platform, but you can't. They're all so very, very different. So we observe, we watch, and when we feel it's right, we start to dabble with it and we learn from other people in the QSR industry, as well as other people just in other brands that are doing it well.
Mm-hmm. And kind of going off of that, how has that kind of changed the way that you guys are going out and creating content and kind of tackling social marketing? Because I think, we had all kind of come to terms with how do we create content on a lot of the established platforms, but now that we were having, actual short form video that's very highly produced, kind of how do you guys go about that, and how are you kind of focusing on this specific channel in terms of marketing efforts?
So I don't know, when was it, like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe it was longer than that, the phrase that you read everywhere was content is king, right? Content is king, content is king. No one could actually tell you what that meant. Like if you ask someone like, what does that mean? Well, it means content's important. No, I know what that means, but like, what does that do? And what it means is content needs to be specific to the platform, right? And you need to be producing many different facets of content. So for us, it's no different than if we were to look at Facebook or Twitter. Like the same thing you put on Facebook isn't the same thing you put on Twitter or Instagram or on your website. Like your content needs to be specific to your channel. The more channels you have, the more content differentiation that you need. And as we've seen, TikTok is a very different type of content platform. What works on TikTok doesn't work on other channels, and that's okay. It's specific to TikTok. So it's adding that into the mix of like, all right, let's understand what the best practices are. What have we learned from other people? What's working, what's not? And the great thing about any of these social channels is it's okay if something doesn't work, because you have another shot tomorrow and another shot the next day, right?
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And I like that you bring up the point that there has to be this differentiation between platforms, because I think people that might kind of be starting out in the space don't really understand that. They'll be like, oh, we'll just create one content and we'll just upload it on every social channel. And you're like, that's not why
No.
people, I use Twitter, I go there for news or like, you know, in LA or like, was that just an earthquake? Things like that versus, you know, I go to TikTok for almost a media outlet at this point. It's like an alternative to TV. So I like that you kind of, you guys are starting to see that really, you know, content does have to be customized to the
And
platform.
TikTok's super curated for like each person, right? So what I see on my TikTok is very different than my daughter's TikTok, which I monitor, which is very different than like my friend's TikTok. I see like middle-aged mom videos that talk about like not wanting to have children anymore some days, or like annoyed with their husbands. Or I see funny cat videos, like very different than the dances that my daughter's watching.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point as well. Um, in terms of, I know you were kind of mentioning, you know, you guys are kind of keeping an eye on what other people are doing in the space and just brands in general. Are there any initiatives that either you guys have run or that you've seen on TikTok that you think has been really interesting and really a great use of the platform?
There's a lot of things that I love about TikTok. In fact, I ask my husband often, like, do you want to see all the things I hearted on TikTok? He's like, no, like it's funny to you. It's not funny to me. But so from a personal standpoint, I think there's a lot of things that have worked really well. From brand standpoint, what I see working is very authentic, very grassroots video, right? Do not overproduce it. Being able to, as much as you can, based on like copyright and things like that, playing off the trends that are really trendy. What's always interesting to me is sometimes I'll heart a video that I'll see and I'll go, that's really like, that's funny. This is really funny. And it's skyrocketed, right? It's had a ton of reach. And then you go to that person's profile and you see that they basically remade the same video 600 times. But only one of them broke through and did great. And I find that fascinating that like they really had to keep trying and keep trying and trying for that breakthrough one that made them an influencer, made them quote unquote go viral. I think for Del Taco, we have a lot of great people that talk about us. And so it's made it really easy to learn from them, learn about what they talk about and lean into that.
Yeah, I think we had kind of quickly chatted about this before, that I had gone into the platform and saw that the hashtag Del Taco had been used around, you know,
Yeah.
30 plus million times. And that you were seeing people that are just organically going out, giving reviews, trying new products. And it's, I think, such a great native element that you're getting. Do you guys kind of use any type of metrics to kind of measure that, in addition to maybe something that you're doing that's more promoted?
Yeah, we're constantly socially listening, right? So social listening has been big on all channels, but like understanding who's hashtagging you, what are they doing? And I joke because people like our life lives on social, right? Like that's where we're at. But then whenever I talk to any type of person who's like, meditation, me time, you should really get off of social. And I was like, that's not gonna, like, that's my job. Like it's legit what I do for a living. So no, but listening to those people talk about us is really interesting. Again, we lean into that. And if you watch, like I watched a young woman today who she just ordered, she goes, what's the least ordered thing on the Del Taco menu? And they said something and she goes, that's what I'd like. She was like, that's pretty good, like for being the least ordered thing. And I was like, that's great. That's fantastic that she liked it. A lot of people do taste tests. There's some funny videos where they compete our brands against other brands. It's just really enjoyable to see what people do. One of my favorites is there's, I think it's a brother and sister duo that say every Taco Tuesday is at Del Taco, and they're literally in our lobby doing a TikTok dance, and it's wonderful.
Wow, that's that's cool to see. Do you find when you're doing social listening that you guys are kind of changing your strategies in accordance to what you're seeing, or just kind of monitoring what people are saying and keeping that in the back of your mind?
It's a little bit of both. It's preparing to be spontaneous, right? You have an idea, you have a good understanding of anything. This could work for anything, not just TikTok, but then you have to be ready to go with the times. And luckily or unluckily, depending on how fast you move, TikTok changes so quickly, right? So what's trendy today might not be trendy tomorrow. I don't know if you guys saw, but Burger King had one of the TikTok songs. And I don't know what the song is, but it was in the background of their commercial. And you know that commercial was ready to go. And they just put the TikTok when it became trendy, because guess what? Next week, not going to be trendy anymore. And something new will be cool.
That was something I think you were mentioning earlier that I think some people have had a challenge with because they're like, oh, we want to lean into an existing trend right now. And I'm like, okay, that means you need to be up and live tomorrow because
Yeah.
we can't say Friday that it's going to still be a thing. So are you guys kind of monitoring trends and quickly activating to align that? Or are you kind of trying to start new trends? I know hashtags are just so big on the platform
Yeah.
themselves, and creating challenges have become a huge way to kind of gain that native traction. Are you guys kind of trying to go down both paths, or is there a preference?
I would say if I said like, yeah, we're really good at listening and activating super fast, I would lie to you, right? Like, I don't think there's any one of my peers that would be like, we're phenomenal at hearing and moving quickly. Like, we all wish we were faster at it. Do we do a pretty good job? Yeah. But could we be faster? Absolutely. And part of that is just learning that, I mean, think about where we were not that long ago. You had weeks, if not months, to put together a campaign. To ask someone who's used to having lots of time to go, no, you have to make a split decision on this, is a challenge. That is changing. That is true change management in the way we think about how marketing structures have ran before. So I think we're all starting to get there in the industry, but I think we have a little ways to go. And I'm sure you see the same thing when you're asking brands to move and activate on something quickly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of something that's going to be challenging, I think, as we kind of progress, because I think, obviously this very custom short form and even longer form video content is here to stay, and it's definitely not going anywhere. But from the content creator side, they're great. They can turn around content so quickly. They have this full level production. So from their side, they're typically ready to go. It's more, I think, when you add in those great, legal aspects of approval or things like that on the brand side, that it's going to take a while, I think, before we're catching up to a place where both sides can function very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And then I know we've talked that QSRs have become very big on this platform. I've seen, with the Charlie Puth Subway initiative way back kind of at the beginning of the pandemic, we're consistently seeing, and like you were saying, that Jack in the Box TV spot that has the song that's been added. QSR is kind of just all over the space. And I think it's great because there is kind of that food TikTok community that exists, and a lot of those hashtags. How do you guys kind of stand out amongst the crowd, especially if there are direct competitors, and kind of, I know you said you're looking at what competitors are doing. How are you ingesting, what's working for them and kind of replicating it and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's constant social listening with them, as well as the QSR industry is small. So it's like, we all know each other. We're all talking to each other about what's going on and what we're doing. We know that every content piece we put out is not going to kill it, right? And so you don't want to spend millions of dollars on something that you just know may not go so far. So you're constantly producing content, trying to hit it, right? And what we've seen is consistency is key. Consistency across all these brands. You see them like, they go from like 3 times a week to a couple times a week, like somewhere in there is where they find their sweet spot. But if they go completely dark for a long time, it takes them a little bit more to ramp up. So, and we know that not everybody's going to see everything you post. So it used to be, you would think, I put out this ad and everybody's going to see it, and I'm going to put out a new ad. I'm going to tell a story if they go to your profile, but for the most part, they're flipping through the feed, and what shows up is what shows up. So your goal is to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible, and to create enough of a content engine so that it's consistently having something to be seen.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people in the QSR space have kind of utilized that hashtag challenge, or kind of a broad awareness, trying to get as many views as possible. Are you guys using the platform for kind of that general awareness and leaning into, cultural trends? Is it a little bit lower funnel? Is it more product focused? Or are you guys kind of doing a good mix of everything?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. It's a good mix. We try and keep it a good mix. I think I don't see a lot of posts without hashtags. Like, everybody needs to be using the appropriate hashtags, right? And it's not just hashtag Del Taco, but the hashtag of what is trending and working right now is important. But again, it goes back to your point, which is what is cool today might not be cool tomorrow. And if that's the case, you have to stay on top of those. So it's a lot of social listening, a lot of monitoring. It's not just because I did it this way before means it'll always be relevant. And that's really important to remember, because that is what it used to be. It used to be like, we know what works, so let's stick with it. It's not that way, because what works today might not work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And kind of going off of what you're saying, I know, some brands jumped on very early, some kind of waited to see how people were reacting to the platform and then kind of gone on. And I think some people may still be a little bit hesitant to get on the platform just because there is, I think, a lot that goes into creating content, like you're saying, social listening, monitoring trends, seeing what other people are doing. Do you have any advice for brands that are looking to get on the platform for the first time?
I would say you always start by doing your research with anything that you're about to do. So I think we probably fit somewhere in the middle. We observed, we watched, we waited, and then we jumped in. You don't want to wait too long either, because if that's the case and it's not relevant to your strategy, then that's okay, but be okay with that. So I would say for all brands that you have to decide if TikTok is the right place for you. Some brands have limited personnel or limited production or limited resources, and they just can't invest in it, right? They can't, and their target audience, they can't find them there. And that's okay, but you need to be okay with it. You can't be like, well, I'm going to just like put up this one piece of content and see if it works. You're in or you're out. So if you're going to invest in it, you need to be consistent and continuously posting.
And going back to kind of when you were saying that content needs to be obviously specialized to the platform, do you guys kind of prioritize certain platforms at specific times? I know with QSR, you're fortunate in that you have kind of this general audience that you can look to, really reach on a number of different platforms. Do you guys kind of prioritize certain ones during the year? Has TikTok kind of become more of a priority just because of the virality of, the content, the growth and the user base?
Yeah, I think, again, staying on trend, TikTok has really skyrocketed during the pandemic. And so it would be silly for us not to be paying attention to it, right? Now, if someone told me like MySpace is back, or I don't know, I'm making that up, but something is back and we need to pay attention to it, we're not going to jump right in. We're going to pay attention. We're going to watch. We're going to see how it does. And then if it blows up, yeah, during isolation, when we all couldn't leave the house, my daughter is the one that was like, Mom, I really want to watch TikTok. And so I wouldn't let her have it on her phone. So I would pull it up on my phone and we'd watch. Then of course I got addicted. And now I can't stop watching. And then we would make family TikToks and family dances. And then I entered one of our family TikToks into a competition, and my husband won a bunch of dance lessons from it. So it was, it grew not just for brands, it grew for our family, it grew for a lot of people. And because of that, and all the people that it grew for, brands have taken notice and went, that's where our audience is now.
Do you have, since you're on the platform, just like me, I like get that notification that it's like time to get off all the time, but do you have kind of a favorite content creator or kind of a favorite area of TikTok that you've stumbled into?
There was, I don't remember it, but it's a guy and he lives in Austin and his boss is in New York, and she hired him and they created these TikToks where it used to be just him. And then like he answered a Zoom call one day with her on it and then posted it, and people loved it. So he makes all these TikToks of him talking to his boss in meetings. He's constantly eating in the meetings, and it's just I'm sure it's staged, but it feels very real and it's hysterical to me. And he reminds me of Charlie Day from like Horrible Bosses and like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it cracks me up. So like he's one of my favorite. Because of my daughter, we watch a lot of dances on those things. And then I love the women that do voiceovers of the comedians. I watch a lot of stupid stuff on TikTok.
I'm like right in the middle of, I don't know if you've heard of Emily Mariko. She does like the salmon, and I'm like right smack dab in the middle of that TikTok right now, and a lot of like dog puppy video TikTok right now too. I think it's interesting that we've all kind of gravitated towards it, because I think, during the pandemic, it was such a weird experience, and I think people were looking for commonality and shared response. And I think now it's interesting because you want to see how people are, going about their day, or we have seen a lot of like Zoom, you know, what it's like to be on Zoom during the pandemic or working in, you know, corporate America during a pandemic. And I think it's very interesting to kind of be able to like quickly judge how everyone else is feeling or to get
Yeah.
like news updates. But it's been very interesting to kind of see, I think, how much time everybody's really devoting towards the platform.
No one should monitor the amount of time. It's excessive how much time I probably spend on that platform. But it cracks me up. And then I end up hearting all these things. And when I look back at all the, like, I like to rewatch the ones that make me laugh, and show them to, like, I'm proud to show them to other people. Like, this is funny. You should watch it. Nobody else thinks it's as funny as I do.
I do the same. I send it to my brother like every 5 minutes. And I'm sure he's probably like, stop sending me TikToks all day. And I'm like, oh. Jumping back into kind of the Del Taco conversation, I think, how do you guys kind of envision? I know a lot of brands are kind of looking towards 2022, which is terrifying to think that we're already at the end of the year, but how are you guys kind of thinking about 2022 when it comes to kind of overall social and TikTok specifically?
So again, it goes back to content generation, right? Making sure it's a priority for us and continuing to look at that. So it's twofold, right? It's the influencer piece of it. It's the people talking about us, whether working with us or not, they are sharing our brand and paying attention to that. And then that's the content generation on our end as well.
And then when you're doing kind of that social listening aspect, as you're kind of monitoring things, are you guys even taking back that feedback to even more like product teams and things like that when you're seeing, I know I saw a ton of reviews. I also saw, I think someone did a lot of drive-through experiences on going to drive-through, you know, doing a lot of Del Taco drive-throughs. Are you guys kind of sharing all of that feedback that you're seeing? Because I think this has been such a great platform to get that quick response, I think, from consumers, where, you know, typically we had to do, you know, focus groups and kind of wait for feedback.
Yeah. So the good news is we have a woman in Del Taco. Her name is Christina, and Christina leads almost everything as it relates to social media. And she is amazing. I cannot say enough good things about her. She is absolutely a rock star at what she does. And she does this for all of our channels and looks at what's working, what's not, and analyzes them. And she pulls that information, and when relevant, make sure the right departments know about it. And that's amazing. Like, not a lot of organizations can say that they're nimble enough to be able to pass information back like that. She really does a really nice job of that.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear, because I think we've worked with some brands where there's a lot longer of a response time to get feedback from, you know, they do social listening just the way everyone else does, but they compile a report, they talk about it internally, and then, you know, 3 or 4 months later, you're starting to see potentially shifts. So it's very interesting to hear that you guys are able to, you know, kind of quickly take that feedback and kind of address it in real time.
Yeah, she does a great job at it.
Do you guys kind of have specific touch points or specific product launches throughout the year that you guys kind of look for things like this to lean into, or is it kind of just you guys have kind of tackled this as an evergreen kind of overarching social initiative?
So we have lots of different promotions that go on throughout the year. And so our TikTok ebbs and flows with them, just like all of our social channels do. So what it becomes is, hey, this is what the story is. And then the story gets curated based on the channel it needs to go on.
Gotcha. I think it's so interesting, because a lot of times, just personally going through TikTok, I've seen, you know, I think we were talking about this on the panel before, that, you know, shopping through TikTok and kind of having to buy what you've seen on TikTok has become such an interesting element to this. And that product specific launches are kind of new things that are available. I think I had seen like the Beyond Meat taco kind of push natively for you guys kind of pop up. And seeing those types of things, it's been very interesting to see how I think we're just becoming more aware of specific products, and kind of that drive to go out and buy, or that drive to go out and try, has been kind of growing specifically for the platform.
Yeah, you're right. And the good thing is we work in something that everybody needs, which is food, right? Like, everybody needs to eat. And we know that food sells. When people see food, whether someone else is eating it or using it or getting it, it works, right? There's a reason that when you watch a pizza commercial, it's like, look, here's a pizza, and look over here, here's a pizza. because people know when they see pizza, they're like, oh, I kind of want pizza now, right? Like tacos are not that dissimilar. Like you see a taco and you're like, I do want taco. What is today? Is today Thursday? I could go for tacos today. Like Taco Thursday sounds good. That's all it takes. And you're right. Like Beyond, our partnership with Beyond is outstanding. We've had that partnership for a very long time. If you are a Beyond Meat lover or not meat, right? It's delicious. And so when people learn that we have that, they're like, why didn't I know this? So we want to make sure that that story comes out as often as possible, as well as some of our other products that are just amazing. And I encourage everyone that's listening to go to Del Taco as soon as they possibly can, because well, you never know when tacos are going to run out.
And then another thing that I was kind of listening in on the panel before from TikTok specifically, I know that they're looking for aspects of like live initiatives and things next year. Do you guys ever envision yourself kind of getting into the live space? Maybe it's taste testing or actually, you know, going through the drive-thru experience, or have you guys ever thought about kind of how that might shift if, you know, live kind of becomes a big trend for the platform?
I will say that I don't know that any of us have given it a ton of thought. And I don't think that I am like the only one. It's like what's here and now. We think about the future, but like I can pontificate about a lot of things. But I think if it takes off, if it gets added and takes off in a way that we're discussing and what we had heard in the conversation before from TikTok directly, then yeah, we have no other, like, of course we're going to get involved and we're going to want to be part of that. And either, like you said, taste testing or live events that we're at, different things that lifestyle wise just fit with our brand. However, as of right now, as it stands, it's not something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about.
Yeah, I think also too, it can be kind of tricky from the brand side because there's, you know, no direct over, you know, it is live. So you can try to script things as best as possible and give direction as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it is still, you know, live. And I think for some brands, there might always be kind of that feeling of hesitancy when it comes to, you know, just giving a creator a bit of free reign to just go ahead and go live and give, you know, especially if there's any talking points that you guys want addressed.
Prepare to be spontaneous.
Exactly. I believe we're about to get into audience questions in a second. Let's see if any of them are popping up yet, but
everybody's like ready to go have tacos.
I know. We had a Del Taco specifically right next to our, I went to USC right next to our college. And so a lot of times we'd all grab Del Taco. So it gives me very fond memories. Think of grabbing tacos, you know, right before class, but I was very into the quesadillas.
Nice.
So we do have a question from the audience. So they're talking about how reaching Gen Z isn't just about having kind of a solid TikTok strategy. What other types of new media and what other content should brands be leveraging to reach younger audiences?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's not just TikTok when it relates to Gen Z. Gen Z is, it's funny, when millennials were the youngest generation, people would say, we're so weird. Like, it's so different. It's so hard to reach them. And now, like, you hear that about Gen Z. But as it relates to targeting Gen Z, it's through where they're at, which is on their phones, right? They're on their phones almost all the time. I mean, you could say that for a lot of generations at this point, but they definitely are. And they're on multiple screens. So I think that one of the things that I spend a lot of time researching is sonic advertising and this idea of like the sound advertising, right? The reason that I looked up and saw the Burger King commercial with the TikTok sound on it was specifically because I recognized the sound. I recognized the song, which was trending from TikTok. And I was like, why would that be on TV? And it was there because that's what they use, which is truly sound advertising to get me to look up. This is the generation that sees more advertising around them than any other generation has at this age, because it's everywhere all the time. And because of that, you have to find a way to break through. And I think sonic advertising is part of it. I think looking at what screens you're on when and how you can really vie for their attention, knowing that the attention spans have only continued to get shorter and shorter is really important.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I was watching television last night, but I also had TikTok open and I was like, am I even processing both
Yeah.
platforms? So it's interesting that, you're talking about phones always being open, and kind of how do you balance, they're always on their phone. How do you kind of balance
Mhm.
that? And it's also interesting that you brought up, I'm starting to feel old where I'm like, oh, I've seen a TV spot. And I feel like Gen Z's like, what?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're only doing streaming, they're only on their phones. And
Very
I'm
true.
um, so kind of a follow-up to that question, how do you target this demographic, this younger audience without kind of losing that older segment? So how do you kind of marry the two where, potentially you're trying to reach both and not cut
Mhm.
one or the other out?
So years ago, we used to say, as it relates to like other advertising, we'd say, we want to get to the right person at the right time with the right message, but it's still true. We want the right person, which could be multiple different demographics, at the right time, whenever they're looking at the screen or looking at listening to whatever they're listening to, with the right message, mean curated content for them. And so it sounds like such an easy phrase, and yet it's so hard and difficult to do. And all of us brands, like it's not just us, all of us are constantly challenged in looking at how we do that. So whether it is TikTok or one of the other many platforms, it's figuring out what content works there, how we can create a system and process that works to get it produced, and getting to the right audience with that content. So it might just be slightly different. It might be vastly different depending on the content we're producing.
Makes sense. And kind of going off of that, the next question, aside from TikTok, what other platforms are kind of central to your social strategy?
Yeah. So like everybody, we're still on Facebook. Like, no, like we weren't like, oh, we have to get off of that. No, we're still there because so many people are still there, and you can still target Instagram. All of those are very much central to how we engage with our audience. Different message, different content based on the platform, but definitely relevant.
Um, and then in terms of, we know some brands like to lean into more content creators, some kind of go that more celebrity route. Have you seen more success using, celebrities, especially on TikTok, or is it really more of a, tried and tested TikTok content creator type, focus that you guys are looking at?
It's both, and luckily people love us. So it's like I said, it's a little bit of both. But if you watch like the Real Housewives, constantly talking about Del Taco, you watch some of these other celebrities, they just bring us up, and we're not reaching out to them and being like, hey, can you talk about us? They naturally love us and naturally talk about us, and that's a pretty amazing brand to be a part of.
Do you guys, I know some brands, they love when people are doing that organic conversation already. Do you guys kind of send, things to those celebrities as you guys kind of
Yeah.
hear? Yeah.
Of course we do, right? Like, no, I don't think there's a brand out there that'd be like, I heard that celebrity talked about me and I don't want to do anything with it. Like, you absolutely want to do as much as you possibly can with that to share the love, right? And we love that they love us.
And then I know we've kind of talked a bit about, how crowded the QSR space is on the platform, specifically with tacos. I know, Taco Bell is kind of, I think the main competitor, but do you guys have any specific focus on things that are more maybe direct competitors than, kind of the broad QSR space?
Well, everybody's our competitor if you're hungry, right? So nobody's like, you know what? I can only think about people that serve tacos right now. I mean, maybe they do, but for the most part, when you're hungry, you don't immediately think of a category as a consumer. You think first, you think I'm hungry. Then you think, do I want to cook at home or leave? I definitely want to leave. Now everybody's our competitor. That's a restaurant. We heard at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of the competitions for restaurants was the delivery of home cooked meals, right? Like, so once you get through that, then they narrow it down to tacos, then we can win. We know that we have a great product. We've been around for a very long time. People love us. You talk to Californians, they say, oh my God, I love Del Taco. It's amazing, right? And we're branching out and we have over 600 locations throughout the US. So now people can get it. I talk to people who literally, when they travel, they're like, oh, thank God I can go to Del Taco. And you're like, oh, that's crazy. All right, that's awesome. I love that. So that we we love about our brand. And we know that we have a superior product in a lot of ways because we cook our food fresh, right? Like we slice and dice and our cheese is grated in the restaurant. And so it has a fast casual type quality while still being a QSR.
It's funny you mentioned that tacos are always my go-to. So whenever I'm like, I'm not cooking tacos, it is. But I think what goes along with that too is a lot of people were like, oh, I don't want to cook. I also don't want to have to go out and get it. I'm going to lean on delivery service. So can you talk about kind of how the importance of delivery services, so your Uber Eats, your DoorDashes kind of play into that added strategy?
Yeah. So we saw the same thing. Pandemic hit. I don't want to leave my house. Who's going to bring me my food? And delivery took off. And and what it did was it got people over the hurdle of like, okay, how do I do this? Do I download an app? Like, I just want to order people who had never ordered DoorDash or Uber Eats or Postmates or Grubhub before are now ordering for the first time. And now they love it, right? Now you have Dash Pass and Uber Pass and all of these other things, and they want their food delivered to them. Now, it's important when you go to that platform, there's a lot to choose from. So you want to make sure that your listings are great and quality and people know you're there and it's geo-targeted around you. So there's a lot of algorithms that go into that, but there's also making sure your content's appropriate for the channel and the marketing you do through them. But getting the eyes in front of you so they know they can just reorder next time. You open DoorDash, I want to reorder what I had from Del Taco next time. And we also know that our business, late night, breakfast, we can deliver that to you. You don't have to get out of bed at night, in the morning. You have a great night out. You want some Del Taco, we'll bring it straight to you. And so we've seen a lot of success with our third-party delivery.
Chris is joining, so I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. I think we've kind of talked about this kind of peak times for advertising for Del Taco. Do you guys kind of lean into that Taco Tuesday? Do you kind of lean into it? I know you're mentioning kind of nighttime, and there are other QSRs that are kind of lean into like late night eats. Is there kind of a strategy when it comes to that?
The great thing is we have great business, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, or late night. Late night is great. In fact, when I first started working for Del Taco, they were like, have you had it? Like lots. And I was like, well, when I lived in Vegas, I would eat it often at 2 a.m. And people would be like, oh, that's awesome. But that's how I knew Del Taco, because that's where you went after having an amazing night out. Now I would eat it any time of the day. And our breakfast tacos are amazing. So we're able to lean into all of those day parts, which is so awesome as a restaurant. Many restaurants can only say they're a lunch and dinner, or they're like one day part. We're all of them. And we have you covered no matter what. If you want to have a breakfast wrap in the morning and an amazing, like our double Del cheeseburger is like, it's the thing I get every time I go there now, and we're a taco restaurant. Like, it's so good. And then you can have like a horchata shake, and it's like, it just blows your mind how good our food is and the quality and the research that goes into every product that we roll out. Honestly, it's all the different day parts, and there isn't one that I would say is like, oh, don't go during that time. Like, they're all very, very good.
Chris, I don't know if you had any other questions. I'm hungry. I'm ready to go to Del
Yeah.
Taco.
Well, I have, first of all, I wanted to congratulate you. I saw that you are on the Future is Female shortlist for Adweek. So congratulations, Erin. Very exciting. And I saw that you're going to be in New York at the Brand Innovators dinner next week. So I will be there as well. So I look forward to meeting you in person. A question that I'm going to ask both of you that will actually serve